The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, JM, and Paul G.
Hey there.
Hello.
How are you? Good.
Magnif. What's up, Lotto? Domo arigato.
Can't play if you don't win. You can't win if you don't play.
Well, you know how you can make a small fortune in playing Lotto. Start with a large one.
Give away millions of dollars every day.
Every day.
It's not going to be you. It could be somebody else.
Nothing like the Weisses.
Just go see Jeff Urso and Duffers.
How do you spell your last name? V-I-C-E?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Weiss, we used to, when I was way back, here you're going to do your little drink emoji. When I was on the school board, there was me, Weiss, there was a school board member last name Weiner, and another one named Weinstock. And the lady who did the roll call was German. So she'd say, Mr. Weiner, Mrs. Weinstock, Mr. Weiss, every vote.
We have ways of making you talk.
No, she was not a Nazi.
I didn't say she was.
Heritage. She was a wonderful lady. But she had a German accent, which there's nothing wrong with having a German accent. But it was just funny every time. Weinstein, Weinstock, Weiss.
Weinstock, isn't that from the producers?
It's a common name, so I don't think there was any connection to the lady that was on the school board with me back. Karen Weinstock.
Jeff Urso, how you doing, brother?
Morning, boys. How are you?
Nice swag there.
You know, I'm just looking all fresh after the gym. No big deal.
Oh, you're tight, high and tight.
That's it. What's going on?
Is there anything more frustrating than dealing with a souvenir vendor?
I used to be a souvenir vendor.
Oh, sorry. Well, that's why you're not anymore.
Yeah, I worked at White Sox Park for like 4 years. T-shirts, hats, whatever you need.
You mean
Should I say-
US, was it, well, now it's called.
We
Rate
don't,
Field.
we call it, listen, I call it, you got two choices, White Sox Park or Comiskey. Anything else you say, I don't recognize that.
Well, sponsor, do you call it the United Center?
Yeah, the UC, yeah. What would you call it? The Chicago Stadium?
I know, but it's called the United Center because United Airlines sponsors it. And do you know what the very first corporate named stadium was in sports?
What?
Wrigley Field.
Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
that
named
makes
to
sense.
promote the Wrigley Gum Company.
Do you call the Sears Tower something else?
It's not called the Willis Tower anymore, by the way.
What's the name of it? I
I don't know. I don't know what the name is, but
Okay.
the Willis Company left.
So if you had to reference
So-
it right
Dallas.
now, Joe, what would you call that big building in the middle of Chicago? You say
Whatever
Sears
the
Tower.
whatever the owner chooses to call it. I mean,
He can call it whatever he wants. I'm not telling
Yeah.
you. Fuck.
I don't know. I'm not anti-business. So if a company,
pro-business.
Oh, you're not?
if a company wants to sponsor a sports stadium, and then we'll call it their name, like Rate Field.
Well, I'm gonna start calling instead
United
of Western
Center.
Avenue. It's now Duffers Avenue, just so everyone knows.
Hey, if you want to contribute to the city and have the street renamed,
Every month, baby. Every month, contribute. Comes right out.
it's not the first time that's happened somewhere.
So let me play the opening music for the show. Wah, wah, wah. Joe Weiss?
In any other election, 62% is a landslide. So, but
you went to the school of small numbers. Is that where you graduated from?
No, I'm just saying, in the history of the United States, no presidential candidate has received 62% of the popular vote. So that's a great number normally. It speaks volumes that the vast majority of the community supported the concept of absentee voting. But
how do we get the community to get the concept of actually voting?
Well, how about we let it so anybody who wants to vote can vote, because you don't have that right now. Because in the last presidential election in Lake Forest, over half the voters, Pete, voted before Election Day through earlier absentee voting. So, as did many of the people from LF4T did. So why not? Look, I get it. There's apathy, and that's a separate issue.
Well, let's talk about that issue.
You could Pete, you could double the participation by creating an absentee voting method.
And have under 20% of the people represent 100%?
Well, look, the history of you can't make people
I guess
vote,
why aren't they, Jeff?
But my two kids are disenfranchised.
Why don't they care? Because everything's fine. Nothing matters till it affects them, right?
Yeah, but Pete,
100%.
Pete, I've been in this business a long time, and I voted every time.
I can tell.
I've voted in every election since I turned 18.
I can tell.
I bet you haven't.
Actually, I have.
Okay.
I don't vote in primaries.
Okay. Well, that's fine. I'm just saying, my point here is, I agree. Everyone should vote in every election that they can. But shaming people and saying, "Oh, you rich people, get off your butts. You're too lazy to go vote and care about things," is counterproductive. I'm just telling you that right now. It is. Yes, Pete.
Look at one of the.
I've had a couple. I
didn't even know there was a vote.
Right. So maybe if we'd had an absentee vote method, he could have voted absentee early.
Hey,
look,
I think it comes down to issues people resonate with, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna shame people that weren't able to vote. My kids weren't able to vote.
Is that shaming people, really?
Is it wrong that my kids weren't able? Is it wrong on my kids that they are out of state, away at college, and can't vote? Is it wrong that somebody's in a hospital?
If people don't care, Joe, if people don't care, that means you and
so they're supposed to get out of that. So they're supposed to get out of the hospital bed.
You and Susan Garrett need to come together on something, or ain't nothing going to get.
Well, she supported absentee voting as a state senator, so why not as a caucus
Joe, I
member?
think everyone should have the absolute right to vote. I don't think just for the Lake Forest Caucus. I think nationally and statewide and blah blah blah. I mean, listen, Joe, that's a great example. If someone is incapacitated, if someone has a second home, if someone lives somewhere else, you can't say you have to be here at this date on this time. I think it's 2026. We're past that. It's not 1805. So, absentee votes is the way to the future, or not absentee, I'm sorry. However you guys want to call it, remote voting or whatever. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. I think the next time you guys put it up, it'll go through. I think people should absolutely have the right to vote.
I think that you basically have right now the equivalent of a filibuster going on. So, both parties in Congress over the years have done this where they're not in the majority, they're in the minority, but they invoke the filibuster rule to try and stop something. Okay. And like I said, it's been both parties have done it. So this is not a partisan critique. But you basically have a very, very small minority of people in this community who have a different point of view. A lot of them are based on grudges from being passed over for something or not getting their way on something. And so
are you saying they don't have a point?
Has anyone made the argument that our city government is bad and we need to elect different people? No one's ever made that argument, at least en masse. Now you may get somebody that lives next to a train track or next to a condominium being built that has an axe to grind with the city. And look, that's fair that they can bring it up. This is a democracy. People about the cell towers over in the west side. There's nothing wrong with people bringing up issues of concern. But I think overall, the vast majority of the community, when we get to a regular election, look, Randy Tack got 60% of the vote. So the no vote the other day in the bylaws got a lower percentage of the vote than Prue Beidler did when she ran for mayor.
Hey, Joe, what is normal municipality voter participation, would you say?
Probably about that number.
Nah.
I could listen. The bar owner could solve it all for you guys. I got this. Change the voting day at the caucus. Joe, you got to talk to somebody.
We had it on a Saturday.
Listen,
Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday.
You guys are missing the boat here. Make it Lake Forest Day. Everyone's going to go out and vote. Or a Wednesday, you go over there, you vote. It's part of the process. You go to a carnival. I guarantee your participation quadruple.
Well, here's the I think
you're welcome. You heard it here first.
It's a great idea. But I think that the challenge you have is the timing of some of these votes. Like people were saying, why did you hold this vote in January in the dead of winter when a lot of people are out of town? And the problem was they had to hold the vote then because they were hoping to have this process in place for the bylaw mandated April officer election. So some of these dates, you'd have to change the bylaws, Jeff, to do what you're saying. And look, I guarantee you that the LF4T crowd, the non-transparent LF4T crowd, they will find a way to be against it because anything, Jeff, that weakens their little filibuster ability, they're against. They can spin it like, oh, this isn't secure, or we have other issues. I don't even know what
their agenda is. I don't know who they are, and I don't know what their agenda is. I have no idea. But
the agenda is that they're still mad that Prue got slighted to become mayor. And then, like I said, you pick up the disgruntled people in town that have a specific issue, like people that live by the railroad tracks by Lake Forest Academy, Katie May with the cell towers.
Are they mad about living next to? I used to live next to railroad. I always find it fascinating when people are upset that there's a train on railroad tracks.
It's like people that live
next to it.
It's like people that buy a house near O'Hare and then complain about the jet noise, right?
I love those people. They're my favorite. They're like,
yeah.
I used to have someone back here. They'd be like, "There's doors opening and closing." I'm like, "Wait a minute. You saved $200,000 and you bought a house next to a commercial business, and then there's noise at the commercial." No.
Yeah, but
it's fascinating. I love those people. I just their logic is great.
But Pete, back to your point about what a percentage of vote should be. If you look at the places where in a local election turnout is high, it's usually because something's really horribly wrong. So like Dalton, which had that whole mess with Tiffany Henyard and that whole clown show,
baby.
Joe, you're gonna have to show me some data because what I'm looking at is
I'll be happy to.
Municipality elections should be around 20-30%. Not 8.
And I bet you if you have, like I said, if you take in the last presidential election, over half the voters in Lake Forest voted before election day, either through mail voting or early voting. So if you take that number and you add it, I think you'd easily pass the number you're suggesting we reach.
Pete, what's your gripe though? I mean, like the problem is there's not an issue out there for people to care about to go vote. I mean, Tiffany Hayward is a great example. That was on the news every single day. Everyone was very motivated to get out and vote.
Right. And let's be honest, the turnout is higher in presidential elections because you can't go anywhere without hearing something about the presidential elections. It's on every TV channel. It's on every Facebook page and every Instagram page and all the TikTok. Everything that you can think of is. Yeah. So when you go down to it, governor elections are always lower turnout than presidential elections even. And we've made the argument, Ted Dabrowski made the argument when he was a guest on the show a few weeks ago,
Joe,
that if everybody, Pete, let me finish the sentence.
Stuff.
I'm just saying, Pete.
What sentence? You're trying to look anything.
But Pete, you're missing the point, Pete.
I know your point. Everything is
no, you don't.
fine. Everything is fine.
You don't know the point until I make it.
Okay.
If everyone who voted for Donald Trump in the presidential election voted for whoever the Republican gubernatorial nominee is this year, Pritzker would be out. Okay, so my point is turnout should be higher in every election. All right, so you scale it down proportionally. Of course, municipal turnout is going to be less because there's less news coverage of it. Was not one single TV station talked about the caucus election. We don't have a newspaper in town anymore. So the votes were driven by social media, text messaging. There was not a single piece, unless you count us, there was not a single piece of media out there ahead of it. Okay, Dan Dorfman writes a great article after the fact, but he didn't write an article leading up to the fact. And I'm not faulting Dan. I mean, he's only got so much column space from his editors. So of course, turnout's going to be less because there's less coverage. Now, if you saw it on TV every day that there was a caucus election on Saturday, yeah, the turnout would have been higher, Pete. So that's just human nature. That's not a Lake Forest thing. That's a human thing.
Senator Susan Garrett, welcome. Looking dapper.
Happy to be here.
Well, it's early in the show,
hey, Senator.
You know how we roll here. You never know what you're going to get.
No.
My point is, the issue is we got 8% of the voting population representing the 100. And what can we do to get more people to come out? My perception, because I'm allowed to have one, is that I don't think people care. So if people don't care, why should I care? And if people don't care and go out to vote, that means that Joe Weiss side of things and Susan Garrett's side of things need to somehow get together and get these, an extra 5% bump to get something passed in the bylaws. So now we got Senator Susan Garrett, we got Joe Weiss here, and Jeff is going to cringe for about.
I'm going to be the mediator. I like to think of myself as the common sense person.
Susan, I just had about 10 minutes of Joe in my ear. I'd like to get a few minutes of you in my ear going over, your side of things. First of all, the Lake Forest L42Q, golly, Turkla, can you come up with something else? That isn't your website. You post things on there, but that's not you, is it, Susan?
I don't think I've posted anything. No, it's John Tricklin. He has a board, and names are posted. So my take on the caucus election is a little bit different. I was thinking a lot about it last night, and it was, let's say, a 60-40 split. A lot of the people that voted in favor of the amendment, I believe, were concerned or worried that if they voted no, the caucus would go away. It was like they didn't want the caucus to think that they were voting against them. And I think on the other side, many of the people that didn't support it would basically say, we want the caucus in place, but we really want to see some reforms happen. So I don't think anybody wants the caucus to go away. I think the caucus, I've heard that there is concern that maybe they're thinking those things. But I think if there is a way to find common ground, like you said, Pete, And you had a proposal last week where you talked about all the reasons, all the things that the caucus could do to build instead of take away. I think it would go a long, long way.
Joe
So-
Weiss, you're biting your tongue. Oh, hold on, Jeff Urso, because I know
got a
Joe's going
question.
to come
I got
in.
a
Go.
question. So I've heard, I'd like to be, I live in Norwood, right? So I grew up in Lake Forest, but I live in Norwood.
Duly noted.
So I just want to understand. So I'm very pro, from the federal level to state level to the local level, remote voting, right? I think everyone should have an opportunity to vote.
Right.
And I think we've seen in different parts of the country that voting could be suppressed by not allowing people access to vote, stuff like that. So typically, that is a very partisan issue for some reason, which I think is just ridiculous. I think everyone should have the right to vote in this country.
Right. I agree.
Wherever they are, if they're on vacation, if they're in a hospital bed, if they're away at school. So why was that contentious in Lake Forest? I don't know. I think like why
So,
couldn't a
yeah,
college
it
kid or
shouldn't
someone in a
be.
nursing home have the ability to go vote in their I don't have the ability to vote in the caucus because I live there.
Jeff, nobody is allowed at the local level, county level, state level, federal level to vote on the internet for many, many reasons.
In Illinois, there are other states they are.
No, nowhere.
That's not true.
Okay, we can
There
talk
are,
about.
there are places that are experimenting with online voting.
They might be
Um,
experimenting, but it hasn't.
But the point, I think the concern, so you're saying
So
you would
let me
be,
finish.
Sure.
Referee, I just want to hear why about.
That's fine.
Yeah,
So
like-
I agree with you. I support mail-in ballots. Maybe none of you do, but because people need access, they're not always there. So the question is, how can Lake Forest find a way to allow people to vote except on one day for 4 hours? Maybe there's a mail-in process that could be adopted. But the internet thing scares people. It does because there are risks. Maybe they're not legitimate to some people, but overall, there was a lot of talk in the community about the risk of being hacked and giving your email address and all of that. And then the backdrop of all that is that it's not allowed anywhere. It's just not. So it's allowed in homeowners associations and corporations, but not to
So I didn't know that. So that was the option. It was internet voting versus in-person voting. There was no option for a mail-in or a form that was, let's say, certified or something.
Right.
Nothing like that.
There's nothing like that, but that would be a good option, a certified ballot or something like that.
So and that's a fair point. I think couple responses on that. First, any way you do balloting, there's a risk of hacking or tampering with the ballots. I mean, I can remember working when I used to work in the Thompson Center, and the post office was part of that building, and we'd go out the side door and could see the back end of the post office. It was a miracle. Letters were being delivered to everyone every day. So, and I'm not saying postal workers are bad people or anything like that, but things happen with the mail. Look, we've all had mail lost. We've all had issues. And then, when the ballots get into the county clerk's office, how is that handled? How is that processed? We've heard different stories about that in Cook County and other places.
But
So,
Jeff's point was certified.
but yeah,
That
and I
takes
think, but also if we did that, I think the concern that, and I don't speak for the office, I'm not an officer in the caucus. I'm just a voting member like every other voter in Lake Forest. But I think the concern was to replicate the process that the county clerk has for presidential and gubernatorial elections would be very expensive to do and very difficult to do unless you turned it over to the county clerk, which I don't know if statutorily you could, even if the bylaw said we did. I don't know if statutorily you could ask the county clerk to do that. So people were concerned about the cost of the internet elections, though they made the point that it would save money because it would eliminate the postcard ballot for the ward elections. But that would be a lot more expensive of a process, because what would happen? Here's what happens now with absentee voting. You either fill out a form or you go online to request the form. The county clerk mails it to you with a postage paid envelope. You fill out your ballot, sign it, and then mail it back to them, and then that's processed. So having a committee, a volunteer committee with a limited budget to do that, it was felt, I've been told, would be extremely more expensive and much more labor intensive. So again, I think there needs to be some, and maybe that's the way we have to do it. If people are concerned about electronic voting, though, young people, and I can say this as a parent of 2 kids in college, they vote by mail because they've been trained to be active citizens and stuff. But to get a kid to fill out a piece of paper, sign it, and mail it back in, these kids do everything on the internet. So I think as time, if we want young people involved in the process, we should look at ways that can do it. And like I said, any process can be hacked. I remember in 1988 when we were all voting in election day, and had those punch card ballots. I saw ballots being mishandled at a polling place in Cook County as a college poll watcher. So anything can do that.
So those white mailboxes around town that that you could put something in for like the city of Lake Forest, right? If everyone had the ability in Lake Forest, to just drop that in, that maybe.
But what about people who are out of town?
Well, then they got
those mailboxes are owned by the city, though. Those are owned by the city. I don't think you want the city having the liability of handling caucus ballots.
So the point is, there are lots of different ideas out there, ways in which we can explore. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We can have maybe small steps, try different things, experiment. But in one fell swoop, to come up with asking people to vote online and putting passwords in and signing up, your head begins to spin. And in the proposal, and I think we've got to be clear about this. I think it was Lake Forest for Transparency came out and said, there's no voter verification. Well, I looked on their the bylaws, and I actually wrote it down. It says in the proposal that the caucus put out, voter verification from a third party may occur. And as somebody who's been in the legislature, may can mean could or couldn't. And
may.
People aren't stupid.
As long as it's not a Katie May.
They're not stupid. They're lazy.
I think
that's a whole different. I think that's people not voting and then complicating voting.
But 62%, as I said before you joined, 62% of the voters on Saturday did say yes, which is normally a 62% landslide in most elections. Obviously, not enough to make the 2/3 required for a bylaw. So I think most people
normally, if I were better looking, I would be Brad Pitt.
What?
So real quick, I know you guys have different different views on this, but I think internet is probably the future for the next generation down. If you could use your Chase app and it reads your face and have access to wire someone $20,000, you should be able to probably vote for a caucus election in your hometown. But before that happens, you probably have to have the right technology in place. So if there was an app that comes out eventually that could do a face verification or whatever, or however I know everyone's freaked out, like, oh, the government. Whenever people tell me that, I'm like, go ahead, look at everything. They could look anyways if they want, by the way. So it's like, I don't know why everyone's so freaked out about that. But, eventually that will happen in 20, 30 years, 15 years. I think kudos that you guys were a little ahead of your time on that, Joe. But I think you also have to sometimes give a little to get a little, right? Mail-in voting and remote voting needs to, I think, be addressed in every form of government. So I think hopefully the caucus, next time they put that around, will at least have that option for maybe a mail-in or something. But the internet thing, unless you have a very secure thing, I get it. It's you're always going to have different points on that. So I don't know.
Well, and so if there was a way in which the caucus could also address the real problem with the bylaws, which they had promised to do for years, it seems like those issues were skirted. The amendment to spell out what happens if the recommended slate that the caucus puts out is not approved by the members. To me, that's key. And yet every year we hear they're going to do it. They're going to do it. They had an ad hoc committee. They got shoved to the side. And then instead we come up with internet voting twice. I mean,
And the reason they did the second vote was because the first vote fell very, very short, like 10 votes, very, very close to being passed.
21 votes. It was
21 votes. But you flip that, 21 divided by 2. But there was the Metro outage that night, and I can speak firsthand. I barely made it, and a lot of people, including one of the aldermen, couldn't make it because they were stuck downtown. All Metro lines were shut down for
Well, I
several
called
hours.
Metro on that. I actually called Metro, and you were right. They did have mechanical difficulties and trains were slowed. The trains that came in on the east side of Lake Forest all came in before whatever it was at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whenever the polls closed. They came in before on the west side. That wasn't the case. There was one train that came in. They were supposed to come in earlier, but came in 10 minutes later.
The announcement on all the Metro trains was, we don't know when I can tell you firsthand because I was on a train. They said all the Metro, they said, we're not moving anywhere for a while. We don't know when this is going to end.
Arrived before the polls on the east side.
But there were people the bottom line is there were people that said, I couldn't make it. Okay. Including an alderman that said it. So I don't think an alderman's going to lie about that. And like I said, I made it at 6:58, I think, or whatever, when did it close at 7 or 8, whatever it was. I made it like 2 minutes before of that. And it was only because I took the CTA to Wilmette, and my wife picked me up in Wilmette and then drove me back to Lake Forest. So bigger point though is, as I've said before in this, I think there are some very serious things, like what you do if the mayor isn't approved, like what happened in 2022 for the 23 election. But how can we have a vote on these very important things? I can't think of a more important thing than how we select our mayor to vote on. How can we have these votes unless everyone can vote? Like I said, my 2 kids are disenfranchised now. Don't they count?
People that are engaged and people that are interested are the ones that are going to vote. My
kids are engaged and interested, but they're away at college.
We're all fighting over this small piece of pizza. How do we make the pizza pie bigger, Susan? Is 8%? I'm looking online and I'm seeing that it's normally about a third for municipalities.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so 8%. Things are working so well here that people don't care. How do we get more people to care?
That could be part of it. I mean, people trust, the caucus. People think it's going okay. Some people are uninformed. They weren't aware of, the distrust for some of the candidates that the caucus had slated a couple of years ago. But whatever the reason is, it's worth talking about. Like, Pete, you and I have talked about the caucus in Winnetka. To me, they're much more engaging. I was thinking, if instead of going out to the community on December 24th, I think that's when I got the information that we're going to have this new vote in January, and just say, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it on this date. And, Metro trains caused a problem before. We're going to take care of that. My feeling would be, why not engage the community, bring them out and say, look, this didn't pass. We don't want it to pass by 10 votes or lose by 10 votes. How can we make it better? How can we get more people involved at the grassroots? Right now, it's like from the top down always. And so you don't really have any option to participate and give your opinion, except once in a while vote. And that kind of comes up whenever the caucus decides they want to do it.
I'm working on trying to get that Winnetka survey, Susan, because that was you clue me in on that, and that's a great idea.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to find out is like what are that 8% still sticks in my craw. Is there something like when somebody moves into the area? Because during COVID, we had what, a gazillion families that moved in here.
It's all issue based, Pete.
Yeah, but
what's
how
the
do you
issue?
know about the caucus when you first move in here? There's no.
I guarantee you half this town doesn't even know a caucus.
I know that. So when you first move in here, look, I'm
But-
trying to solve a problem.
I know, I hear you, but you guys brought up Tiffany Hayward, right? That was everywhere. That was an issue. That's an issue. People are like, let's get out and vote. And you have to have an issue. If there's no issue, no one cares. Like everything's like, have you guys been to Lake Forest? It's like a Hallmark TV commercial out here. It's great.
Well,
So-
also the slates are uncontested. So
Yeah, which is, you know what, honestly, like I like how the caucus thing works. I mean, I like the right to choose. honestly.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying if you don't have a contested election, why would you come out and vote? I mean,
That's
that could be.
exactly, you're exactly right.
Hold
So-
on, everybody. I just moved to Lake Forest. How do I know that there's a caucus? How do I know to participate if I'm not going to rely on myself to go look? Like, how is the city going to do anything, or they try to do church and state on that? Because you move it. Like, how do you know?
I, according to Tyler's email or text, whatever he sent, no, apparently.
Well, the Newcomers Club has every year the caucus makes it the Lake Forest Caucus and the Lake Bluff Caucus. Because it's the Newcomers Club of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, has presentations from both of them at one of their meetings. But obviously, it's a volunteer. Then you have to know about the Newcomers Club because the school district also makes a presentation and stuff. So there maybe I'm told in the old days before the internet and before all the other stuff, people used to actually talk to their neighbors, and people would go around in their ward or in their neighborhood or their precinct, whatever you want to divvy it up into, and say, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm part of the caucus and you're part of the caucus. And come to a meeting or just let me tell you about what's going
How's
on.
that
I think
scalable,
we've lost that, I think,
It's
because
not,
of
and it
the
happens.
internet. And it's a generational thing. Look, the Chicago mayoral election last time in 2023 with Brandon Johnson winning had a much lower turnout. Even with
I
all the
just
TV
moved to
coverage
Lake
in
Forest.
Chicago.
How do I know whose duty is it to let me know that there's a caucus
it's
here?
your duty. It's your duty as
Okay.
a voter. So here, like Pete, my kid almost got hit by a bike like 10, 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know Shields Township existed. I lived in, I was like, well, I don't even know what this is. I went to meetings to complain. I was like, that guy reading something in my 3 minutes, being like, there's no stop signs, there's no cops. And then I just kept going back and they're like, well, you want to get involved? And next thing I know, I'm a township supervisor. Like, it's just, it's insanity that just no one cares. But it's your duty as a voter, it's your duty as a resident to figure it out. It's no one's duty to go tell you, right? So if you want
Well,
change,
maybe the caucus had a video, explaining who they are, something that people could just
go
go to.
watch it.
There's tons of those videos, Susan.
Yeah, they have had it.
They do have videos?
It's like I said, I think what
Never seen a video.
what I've recommended to some folks.
Looby started like 15 years ago and they had that cable channel. Is that still alive?
Channel 19, baby.
Well, they tried to shut it down, and
It's not on YouTube TV. Most people aren't on that anymore. They're on streaming stuff like YouTube TV.
The camera
But
was always like a mile away, and you couldn't.
I think it comes down to you have to have, and I would say you would want to get people involved in the caucus that are willing to take a precinct. Precincts tend to be much more manageable, that, Susan. But say, hey, we're going to have, in addition to the ward and all that, maybe we have someone assigned to each precinct in Lake Forest or each subdivision. Maybe it doesn't have to be divvied up by precinct, but some way of saying you're responsible for this area and you go around 3 or 4 times a year, say hi, maybe send a newsletter, do a mailer. You can do that. But I think we've lost a lot of that. I still think
No, what we've lost, Joe, there's no budget. There's no money.
But doesn't cost any money to knock on somebody's door, Pete.
So let's focus on the money a little bit. I'm so confused about who's paying for what in the caucus. And I know, Joe, you have your issues with Lake Forest for transparency, but a lot of money was spent by the caucus. When Prue was running, there were gobs of $10,000 donations to, field a campaign against her. So money is there. It can come in. The caucus has access to money if it wants it. So I don't want to like stop everything and say, okay, we can't do it because it's too expensive.
I mean, with all due respect, Senator, they went out and raised that money because they saw that Prue was self-funding and spent, I don't know what the final amount was. It was certainly over 100,000. It may have been 200,000. Whatever that number was, it was higher than they'd ever seen before.
But the point being, they can raise money. They
had to go out and raise money, but the question is that sustainable in the long run? It's one thing to say, hey, we've got what we view as an existential threat, meaning someone who is spending a huge amount of money against us, and we need your help. Can you belly up and do that? Is that sustainable over the course of 5, 10, 15 years?
The point is, if you want to improve the caucus, if it's paying for certified ballots or whatever the decision would be to make voting more accessible, and if the excuse is always going to be it costs too much money, nothing will ever change. The money is in the community. There are people in the community that would make a donation to boost the caucus and make sure that it's run more fairly, or
that's a fair discussion. Here, I have a question on this though. How come it wasn't until I hate to make it all about me, but until I was the one
I'd
saying,
rather have you make it about you than me. We'll talk.
No, but I'm saying before I was complaining about my kids not being able to vote, I never heard anyone. I never heard Prue. I never heard you. I never heard anyone from LF4T saying, why can't we open this up and get more people voting by having some type of absentee system? It wasn't until I brought it up, and again, it's not about me, but it's about why wasn't this an issue until the caucus made an issue? Why wasn't LF4T? Why wasn't Prue Bylaw when she was running? Why wasn't anybody saying we need absentee voting of some sort for the caucus?
Because
it seemed to be more of a defensive thing, only because someone finally brought it up and had a proposal, right? And it may have been an imperfect proposal.
The issue was fixing the bylaws.
Right, but how can we fix anything? How can we fix the bylaws? How can we have a vote representative of who we nominate as candidates if we have voters who are physically unable to vote?
Well, chicken egg situation.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't do one without the other. So you're talking in silos.
You can have two bylaws, sure, but it takes 2/3 to get anything changed. So I promise you, if they did what they said they were going to do and fix the bylaws, that amendment would pass.
So Susan, you think that if they put a vote towards having a binding ability to have some teeth to the caucus, yeah, okay, that could get past 2/3?
Absolutely. Unless the caucus doesn't want it, and then if they campaigned against
it.
Here's the problem.
Here's the thing. So in 2022, when they had that meeting and Randy Tack did not get the votes at the meeting, but then when they went to the election, it was not even close. So I would argue if you put in absentee balloting, if that wouldn't even be an issue. That said, I think, yeah, we should look at the bylaws and stuff, but how do we do anything without letting everyone have the opportunity to participate? It's one thing if someone chooses not to be there, but
Joe,
before we came on,
you're putting so much weight on people being able to vote as if that will make all the difference in the
Senator,
world.
in the last presidential election, over half the voters in Lake Forest voted before election day, either early voting or vote by mail. So I think a lot of people are conditioned now to think, oh, I can vote remotely. I had a friend whose husband is a CFO, and him too. It wasn't just her. There is a CFO of a big business. They're like, oh yeah, I'll just vote absentee. And it's like, no, you can't. So we've now conditioned a lot of voters through a bill you voted on, and I'm saying it was a good bill, that I don't have to go to a polling place on election day. So a lot of people have a mindset, I don't need to travel to a building anymore to do that. So I think that's part of what would increase the turnout.
What I'm hearing is that 8%, we're not going to get much more than 8% participation. So spending this time trying to get more people to vote, whether it's
what was the turnout in the 2023 election with Randy Tack on the ballot, and you did have the high school tax
8.5%, Joe. My point is that
does it? I don't know.
We got something broken and needs to be fixed. So we can do it all at once, or we can piecemeal it.
Well, I guess we'll have to do it all at once.
Okay. Well, no.
To get to 2/3, I guess so.
If only 8% of the people care, it doesn't matter what the conditions are. It's still 8%. So we need teeth to the bylaws, to the votes. Okay. Put that one forward and let's see what happens. Right. And then go down the list. What's the downside of doing that, Joe?
You want to have a vote? I guess we're going to have a vote on bylaws at some point in the future.
So we went through the omnibus with the
a lot of
voting.
people
now
aren't
we have to go
a lot of people aren't going to be able to participate in that because this amendment was
there isn't anybody
shot down.
Participating.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, Pete, if you pay,
Joe, your two kids ain't moving the needle, bud. They're not.
Pete, but there's a lot of people in town. I guarantee you, if you put in an absentee ballot,
11%,
some kind, the turnout would increase. I guarantee you that because both sides would then go into what political campaigns do, and that's GOTV. Susan would tell all her friends, "Hey, you could vote by mail," and I would tell all my friends.
This sounds very partisan, and I don't even know who's
on Jeff.
But everyone should be able to have access to voting. So I 100% agree with Joe on that. Joe, I might disagree with the internet part of it. I think we got to start with forms and sheets, but absentee ballots and remote vote, that needs to happen. That's crazy that hundreds of people voted against it, in my opinion. But I think that needs to come to light. And Pete, if it goes from 8% to 11%, that's a 50% increase almost. So that's a
very small number that doesn't.
Who cares? It's still more people. I mean, that's you gotta crawl before you walk, before you run.
I believe, I don't know. If 8%, 11% represents the 100.
I don't know what the bylaw issue is. I have no idea. But
the caucus needs to strengthen their bylaws and regain trust. There's no reason why they can't do that.
You brought up, hold on, Joe, hold on. This is important. You brought up trust, Sue, and I'll let you go, Joe, they had that turnover, Joe, and we can argue on a time frame or whatever, but you had the next president resign, and I didn't hear anything about it.
There's a work commitment. It is what I'm told. He had a work.
Whatever.
He did not realize.
How did you find out about it?
Because of it being told by you and a couple other people.
Inside baseball.
But Pete, here's the thing, though. Here's the point.
Don't you think the caucus should have said, "Hey, the president that we..."
Yeah, they did. They did on their website.
Oh.
See, so here's my point. When you resigned from the caucus, right, a few years ago, you made a big announcement about it at the time, as I recall, that Pete Jansons do hereby resign, and you made it out. So the idea that there was mass resignations over some dispute and nobody at the time, why didn't those people come out? Why didn't they call Dan Dorfman or you and say, "Hey, a bunch of us just resigned because we're upset about something"? You would have done a podcast in about 10 seconds if one of those guys had called you. And they didn't call you because other than it was all, for the most part, it was people that had time commitments. Somebody moved,
for the most part,
somebody got a new job. I mean, there were people that just couldn't do it.
What's your take on it?
Joe, are you living in another universe? People are resigning because they're unhappy.
Why didn't they say that at the time? Why did they wait until an election to do that?
Well, maybe the pressure was too great. I heard they were required to come up with list of people that they were going to turn in, just like the old board used to do, of people who were going to vote yes.
Part of being on the caucus is to try and increase turnout. We just had a whole discussion how we can increase turnout. Well, I think people should I think people who are officers in the caucus should work to increase turnout. Absolutely.
Joe, are you on the caucus? Anyone?
I'm a just like you. I'm a taxpayer, so I'm one of 16,000. I'm not a caucus officer.
So I didn't ask about officer. Are you connected with them in any way, shape, or form? Where
I have no title other than voter.
I know, but do you advise? Do
I mean, do you?
the
I
reason
mean,
I'm asking, let me be fair, because
We
I know
advise
you don't want to
everybody.
answer that.
Don't listen to
You
us.
sent out an email to, I don't know who, I heard they were mostly Republicans. I don't know if it was on the show or your article that you posted in the patch talked about how people from Lake Forest for Transparency, and specifically you said me and Prue voted remotely or voted absentee. I mean, how did you find that out? Which, by the way,
public record from the Lake County Clerk.
well, how do you get access to those records?
You can ask for them.
No.
You can. I can ask. You can. It's public record.
If you're if you're a political committee, or if you're associated with like Lake Forest Republicans or Lake Forest Democrats, you could.
It's
Nobody can have access to that. You have to be a political committee.
I'm just telling you, it's
Well,
public
I'm telling
information.
you because I am concerned that you that the line was crossed in you.
No, it wasn't.
Information. That was.
What are you hiding? Are you hiding that you voted absentee?
The opposite. I stand in line, I vote. And I've never voted for, as far as I know, by mail or, as you would say, absentee, which is a misnomer now. I've never done that.
Then you should ask for your voting record from the Lake County Clerk.
I know my voting record, and I know that nobody has access to it.
Then maybe it's incorrect.
Joe,
I'm just telling you.
My concern is,
I think you're trying to change the subject from the fact that you and everyone else voted at least once I don't know, maybe you did vote on election day, but you sponsored the bill, or not, didn't sponsor it. You voted for a bill as a senator to create the process we now have.
I'm very proud of
that. Is that true?
Yes, of course.
So why are you upset that I'm bringing that up?
I'm upset that you have used my name and others publicly to say things that are untrue.
What have I said that's untrue?
Well, first of all, voting, early voting or voting by mail is not a bad thing. So your initial premise was that that's bad. And not only is that bad, but these Democrats, that's how they vote.
What I've said is people are voting early and absentee now in other elections, including many of the people who are against this amendment. And so they're really hypocrites for being supportive of it at one level and not doing it at this level.
Internet voting is all by itself. There's nothing like internet voting. Voting by mail, everything can be verified. Early voting, it's done electronically.
So you would support a different method of absentee voting, because nobody, like I said, nobody before this issue was brought up, nobody over the years from LF4T or you or Prue or any of the.
That's not who I am.
No one ever suggested let's have some type of absentee voting. You didn't.
Well, so what?
Because it's excluding people, and here's why. Here's my opinion.
It's like
I'm sure you're going to disagree with this, but here's my opinion. You and Prue and the LF4T officers would lose the ability to win votes or to sideline bylaws votes if more people voted, because you've got about 200 or 300 people that are guaranteed votes for no on Randy or no on a bylaw and stuff like that. And that's about it. That if everyone votes in the community that is able to vote in the community, as they did when Randy ran against Prue on the ballot in April of 2023,
election type vote.
Right. But when everyone has the ability to do that, it's not even close.
You're not making sense. I'm sorry.
I'm making perfect sense.
Hey, Jeff, come on in here. The bartender needs
Okay, all right. I got this. I got this. Mom, Dad, everyone, listen. All right.
Am I the drunk uncle?
Everyone can agree on that we need absentee or remote voting, yes, right? Not how, but just yes, right? I think that's just the way voting is. Joe, you agree on that?
I just said it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I know Susan.
I
agrees
think
on
it makes a taller midget.
Okay. I think the question is just how now. So I think this big argument is how instead of if, right? Everyone agrees that the if is yes. So I think the caucus needs to get back to the drawing board. I think Susan brings up a couple good points with internet vote. I mean, if it's just like a login with a password, I mean, I would vote for all my kids. If I wouldn't, not me, saying someone hypothetically could.
And
But
there's no way to verify. And
that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
but at the same time, Joe, if your two daughters wanted to go to
It's a son and a daughter. Son and a daughter.
I'm sorry, son and a daughter. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm just spitballing. But if they want to go to a bank and say, hey, this is me, I'm going to sign this form. Can you stamp it? There you go. Put it in the mail, drop it in the box. Done. I think that's a great little compromise, and I think everyone could agree.
No,
on it.
I think obviously if we're going to get something, any bylaw change requires 2/3. So if we're going to get something accomplished, it has to be something that can get 2/3. So now let's talk about different ways, and maybe it's a paper thing, and we just belly up and
I think the
do
bylaw
that
issue-
expense.
Yeah, is it different?
That's fine. Like I said, I
still
think
don't understand.
I
what
guarantee
the
you,
issue
I'm
is.
willing to bet you that any type of absentee method that gets proposed is
Yeah.
going to have some opposition from people who don't want to widen the pool of voters, because when everyone votes,
I don't
it's
think
clear.
that's Joe.
It's
I don't
clear.
think that.
talking about.
I think people.
Not even close.
want absentee voting overall.
Not even close.
Well, okay. I think
You've got a filibuster. You've essentially got a filibuster going on.
Joe, you claim that people that don't agree with you or people that you are, spending a lot of time with are bad people, and they're
Never
a
said
small
that.
group and they oppose things and they're ruining the caucus. That's what your underlying
I
theme.
do think that there's a small group of people
That's-
out of touch with the majority of residents in Lake Forest. Yes.
Okay.
That's the
I don't know
voters.
what to
That's
say
the
about
voters.
that, but they're voters. I mean, I don't agree with.
They're voters too. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has a look. I'm a voting minority in the state of Illinois right now. I mean, there's not a single Republican statewide at this point. So I'm clearly a voting minority in
So
that.
you have to get that out
But there's a filibuster. But
It's
this
not.
is essentially a filibuster because
It's in the
62%.
DNA, Susan. You can't do anything about it.
Senator, but 62%.
I wish I had a glass of wine instead of a cup of
Senator,
coffee.
no
I'm going
presidential
to
candidate.
Duffers. Let's meet at Duffers.
I'm about to crack open a bit.
But no presidential candidate in American history has gotten 62% of the vote. So that's a landslide in any other election except for a bylaw election that requires 66.
I got 74%.
Susan,
I'm
how do we get
impressed. I'm
74?
impressed that a Republican got 26%.
All right, hold on.
in their
We're
district.
going, Pete, you got to rein this in. We're going in circles, bud. We're going in
Okay.
circles.
Look,
I go in circles. We
Okay,
just lost like
let's kind of
6
frame-
viewers watching this because of the
let's
circles.
frame. That's all right. That's two more than we usually get. Let's kind of frame this thing out, because the caucus, do we need it? Yes. Why? Because whoever has the most money can get their agenda forward. Okay, I agree. Number two, what are you laughing at, Susan? That's not a true statement?
I wish
Okay.
it wasn't true.
Okay. Well,
So you don't think we should get rid of the caucus, Susan? Is that correct? Because
I don't think
because
so, no.
some of the people online who are often vocal, and again, online comments on Facebook, you can, don't always represent, but there have been okay.
town apart.
Back to
Let me
Pete.
finish the thought. There have been people that said
Why
this
should you be
caucus.
able to?
Why don't we just let people run? Skokie just got rid of the caucus, and now in Skokie, people just run on their own. Independent. Everyone's independent on the ballot, and they run on their own. And whoever spends the most money in Skokie becomes the mayor of Skokie now. So, is that what you're saying?
Well,
we
let's
shouldn't
go
do
back
that.
to Pete, what were you going to say?
thanks, Susan.
That's okay.
Jesus. Look, okay, so we're in agreement. Caucus needs to stick around. We just need to be in agreement of, okay, if we do get around, instead of having meetings and emails that there has to be an end game to whatever we get together on, and there needs to be a binding vote. We don't have that. So I think that's the
Can you explain that to me? I still don't know what the heck you guys are talking about. Why is the vote not binding? I'm so confused.
because there's nothing in the language that says it's binding. It's as simple as that.
So what does that mean? Who chooses who?
If there's a yes or no, there's nothing that says, hey, you must act in this manner.
So in 3 years ago, the caucus put forward a slate. Enough people came forward to say, no, we don't agree with the mayor, the candidate that they chose for mayor. We don't agree with that. And enough people turned that around, so it was not, they shouldn't have moved that candidate forward.
When you
So-
say enough, is it more than 50%?
The caucus has to have 2/3 of the people approving their slate or their recommendation for.
So less than 67% people. So more than 33% people said no.
Are you sure it's 2/3 on the candidate approval, or is it a 50% plus one?
I think it's 2/3, but I might be wrong. Whatever it is, it wasn't approved. And so then the caucus came out and said, oh, whoops, that vote that was taken that we don't agree with is non-binding. And by the way, we have talked to an attorney at Mayor Brown, one of the best law firms in Chicago, and that attorney agrees with us. Well, there is an email or some kind of correspondence from Mayor Brown that said, we never talked to the caucus about this non-binding amendment. So from the get-go, that's where the trust issue began.
So I agree with you that there needs to be better defined bylaws.
Let me just ask a question so like everyone else that's on my page will understand this. So the caucus put together a nominee and didn't get to 67%, but
On one, just on one.
on one.
Yeah.
But then they just re-put up that person. So as an
No.
outsider.
So that's the question. When the electorate says, no, we don't want that candidate, the caucus should either follow through and say, okay, we'll come up with candidate number B. We'll find somebody else. We heard you loud and clearly.
Okay.
Or if the bylaws were written, they could say, we have 90 days to come up with another candidate. Right now it's in limbo. So people expected when they saw that the vote didn't support that mayoral candidate, that next step would be the caucus would find another candidate.
I mean, I would agree if it was over 50%, but if it's only 33% people
Well,
saying
it's
no.
written in the bylaws, whatever that.
No,
vote
I
is.
understand that. So that seems like something you guys need to address.
So,
right?
and I agree. The problem is
Years
you have
they've
to,
been trying address it.
but you have to then change the dates of when this voting occurs, because there's a hard deadline that the state has for when candidates need to be certified to be on the ballot. So you have to back this out if you're going to have a fair process on it.
Okay, that's easy to do.
Yeah, so that should be part of the bylaws. But again, maybe the process that you propose is something that other people don't agree with. They would rather have a different proposal. Why not? So let's hammer that out. Unfortunately, not everybody's going to get to vote on it because they can't. But let's do that, because I'd like to see what the proposal is. When should the vote be taken? What happens? Do you go to the second candidate automatically? Do you have a revote? What would you suggest, Susan?
I would suggest that the caucus puts out a draft proposal on the bylaws on making the vote binding and put it out there as a draft and get some input from people on all sides who are engaged and vocal, and then come up with consensus on this, which I think would be pretty easy to achieve if all parties are really serious and committed, and then put it out for the official vote.
But what would get consensus? Would it be, because I've heard different ideas of this. I've heard some
I
people
don't
say
know.
the
I mean,
second.
Right now,
about
I'm
this.
looking at the bylaws right now, and the only thing that's 2/3 is to change the bylaws. It's a majority for everything else.
Yeah, I
So-
think it was a majority. That's
So
why
it is a majority, but again, the point is, so what? There's a majority. Great, you had more votes, but there's nothing to take action on the result of the vote. That's the
Right.
big issue.
I agree. They need to take this
But
cloud
why can't we put
over
that
it
as
and
a
change
vote,
the
Regina?
bylaws. But
Or Scott?
what's the alternative? What is the process
Well,
that does it? Do you go with the second place thing? Do
Well,
you have
that's
a
for us. That's not something we can decide on
But
right
se-
now.
but what would you vote for a second if the consensus amongst people, because I thought there was a consensus for the absentee voting thing, but obviously there wasn't. If the consensus is, do we
What's
take the
absentee? What
second?
are you talking about
But
absentee?
here's why I want to point this out. I'm sorry I'm giving you a headache. But you can't, if you do a second vote, you have to schedule that and have people then come back to Gorton a different date. And again, you then get into people's
No.
schedules.
I mean, just there are ways to make things work. I mean, this is not a difficult.
Do you do the cumulative or the ranked choice voting like they're doing in New York City?
Maybe, I don't know, but that's for a committee to come up with some options and then let's discuss.
And that's open to that. But, and I guess, unfortunately, we're going to have to decide that without everybody being able to decide it. So, but that's the process.
I mean, I don't know.
Susan, were you a whip person or was that Morrison?
She's a whip person. I was a whip.
Is it,
And
okay,
I
you were a
was
whip. When you're a whip, you
I'm
gotta
used to being whipped.
you
Wait, Joe, when's the next time that can be put up for vote again? The absentee. April. Okay, so I think that you and Susan should talk offline, but I think it sounds like you both support absentee if it's on paper. Just maybe you guys get together and
So-
Well, then you're going to have to figure out a system. I
I'm
mean,
not part of the caucus, but the first step.
yes, you are. You're a voting member.
You're part of the no vote, Susan.
I don't have a voice at the table, but the first step is that they have to fix the bylaws. Nobody's gonna, that.
I agree there should be changes to the bylaws, but I just
That
wish
was-
everybody
that was
got to participate in it. But
That
that's
was-
fine.
So in April to vote, Susan, you can get some of your no, because what do we need? 5 points here? Come on. You are a whip, so you got to count.
Hold on. I'm just playing devil's advocate for everybody here because this is almost as entertaining as anything for me. So when you say they have to
Thanks for
fix the
showing up.
bylaws, are you saying if they put up an absentee paper certified vote that people would still vote no because the bylaws weren't fixed at that point?
Probably.
Well, that's
Kind of my point.
That
We
would be
gotta put a vote
disappointing.
in April that says there's this is what happens when a vote, yes or no, plus one, minus one.
What
This
the
is what we're gonna
caucus is
do.
becoming is like a political hostage. So that's what you guys are saying. It's like, it's a political hostage. Give me what I want and I'll give you guys what you like. That's what we're doing. We're
Oh,
doing
I
a
think
partisan
that-
thing.
Quid pro
No,
quo.
Jeff. So 3 years ago when this all happened,
Yeah.
wait, what just happened?
Can you see me?
Oh,
Okay, if I lose you,
I think it's
Okay.
the Republican.
I just got a
committee.
text that saying Comcast is having outages everywhere right now. So
Yeah,
no, I
the
got a
RNC.
message. So 3 years ago, the caucus promised that they were going to fix the bylaws so we understand what happens when we vote.
got
So
it.
it could happen at the same time. Here's the bylaw change, so everybody knows when they vote, and it's, different than what was intended or expected, then we're gonna do A, B, or C. At the same time, they can make another amendment change to have absentee ballots or vote by mail or something like that. They're not, they're exclusive of one another, but they could be voted on at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I hear both of you guys, and I think you guys both make really good points. I think those are two separate issues. I would always fight for people to have a right to vote. I think it would be insane to deny people, but I think it has to be done proper, Joe. I think
Yeah.
the internet is.
I will send. I
the
can't
world
do it
is
right
ready
now
for
because
that.
I'm on my cell phone today. But
Yeah,
as soon as we're done, I have the article.
I agree with
talks
Susan. I
about
don't
states
think
that
the
are
world is
having
ready for
voting
internet
elsewhere.
voting, but
Send it to
mail-in
me,
voting-
Joe, send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
But mail-in voting is, I mean, I would be surprised if there was more than like 7 people that voted against that. That would be crazy. But also the bylaws, sounds like you guys need to just clean up or at least post what they are, because no one even knew if it was over 50% until Pete just looked it up. So like
Well,
that,
it's posted on the website.
Well,
Okay,
the
yeah.
bylaws are there, but it's up to somebody who just moves into the community to know that, to go look.
Well, that is on residents, Pete. We talked about that. So
But
Okay.
I could, Jeff, I could say that about Shields Township too.
Exactly.
As you said.
You know
I
how
could
many
s-
people come to
I could
Shields
say that
Township
about Lake.
meetings? Like two. We have like two crazy ladies, and then like we have like two
I
normal.
know who they are.
Oh yeah, they're insane. I mean, when I
I
wish
cannot
that
confirm nor deny
I
these
hope,
allegations.
I pray they move to Lake Forest and they come to your caucus and you guys, you want to see crazy in real life. I would sell tickets to Shields Township just for you guys to watch these two talk.
Yeah, it's always been like that.
I know they are crazy. And you know what's the best? I talk to people on both sides of the aisle. They all think they're bad. You know what I mean? They are just no. Everyone runs against them. Like I'll talk to like some.
Every community's got at least one.
No, they're just like I just tell them what they want to hear and like, get the hell out
It's
of their
called
way.
outliers.
Yeah,
It's
but that's
called
why we have a
outliers.
that's why we have a thing called majority rule.
Oh my
So-
god! So I wish that
Most
was
of the
going.
time.
So it sounds like the caucus's problems are not that bad.
Well,
I think
I-
but I'm open to having the by. Obviously, we're going to have to if we can't get 2/3 of a standalone on absentee voting, then let's look at ways. But then we're going to have to figure out what the ways are because I think there's different methods that could end up with different results. Do you take the second place person? Do you say, okay, 2 weeks later we'll revote, therefore we have to plan ahead and have this
A
meeting
lot of
2
smart
weeks earlier?
people on the
Look, and
caucus.
you-
There's
and
a
you-
lot of leaders.
look,
Aren't they?
this,
Isn't this what committees are for?
look,
Yeah.
this-
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I think, but I look at. I'm so much more concerned about public policy than the political end of it. And to me, the public policy part is we got a great city. Our caucus is electing people that, in turn, are hiring great staff at the city, and I think the quality of life in Lake Forest is great, and we've got the lowest tax rate in Lake County of any municipality. So again, the end game to me is good public policy, and we're getting good public policy in Lake
Joe,
Forest.
I've been beefing about these bylaws for 5 years.
Sure,
That's
but
why-
it's such an insider thing
Well,
that
that's all this
Well, it's
voting is
such an insider
insiders,
thing that
Joe.
it's wreaking havoc on the whole city.
yeah. But I mean, that's. I don't think it's wreaking
8%
havoc on
8% of the
I don't-
city,
I don't.
Susan.
I don't think it's
Okay,
wreaking havoc
before you
on
guys
city
all go
government.
back
City
and grab-
government's doing just fine.
Before we do this again,
I
I
What
think
I
we all
like
agree-
is-
wait, hold on, Pete.
Yeah.
Everyone here supports absentee by mail voting, and we need to look at bylaws.
and Jeff,
There's separate
in
issues.
politics, if you don't get the teeth into the bylaws, ain't no, and you got to start right there. No other vote on anything else to get
Yeah, but
something
you
through in
can't-
April.
holding hostage people, suppressing vote is just crazy. No one
I
wants.
don't know.
that.
You came up with that phrase, and my point is, right now
I can't.
we got a bunch of bylaws that are just a bunch of text in a Word doc with no teeth to it. We got to put teeth.
No, I agree with you. Fix both. Fix
So,
both. But I
okay,
don't
if
think one should hold the other hostage.
Susan, you think we get both fixed? Only the one?
I think they both have to be fixed.
Okay, great. So you're the whip. I think you got to get with Joe. What I love about what we have.
I want Joe to apologize to me.
For what?
Yeah, Joe.
For what? What did I? What do you want me to apologize for?
Hypocrisy is spelled Susan Garrett for one.
I believe if you supported one method and didn't support the other, that's hypocrisy. So no, I'm not going to apologize for that.
Okay.
I just you obviously have a different point of view. You have a right to
Don't
that, but I think
understand
it's
versus
hypocritical.
other
Jeff,
kinds
I'm
of
feeling
voting.
uncomfortable.
I think
it's
we got a red
hypocritical,
pen
Susan.
and a blue pen, and they
It's not
you two
partisan.
won't even be able to agree that the sky is blue.
Oh, it's not partisan. Okay.
I felt it was hypocritical.
Okay.
Susan, what's your other beef?
Well, the beef is that you go out publicly and denounce women such as, besides me, Prue Bidler, the Luces, and anybody that
Jeff Luce is a man.
Jeff's wife, or the Luces in general. I would just say, you denounce them.
John
for-
Turk was a man.
And it's just not.
I
it's-
worked for two women, Judy Bartopinka and Leslie Munger. So I disagree with you on that.
Well,
Joe,
you did it though. I mean, the facts are there. And so it's.
I disagree with a person, not because of their gender, Susan. That's silly.
I got to jump in on this one. My wife is from Poland, and it's like someone disagreeing with her and then being like me calling him xenophobic. But I don't think Joe would.
But he's always going after Prue Bidler and me constantly.
Because you're bringing up things I disagree with.
I think it's actually a sign of respect because that you have a strong voice in the community and you two are on the opposite sides of the ring. So I think that's
Oh, Jeff, that was well said. I think we should end the show on that.
You know, like I will give credit where credit is due. Melanie Rummel and Mike Rummel supported the caucus amendment. So there. I mean, if I agreed with them on that issue, I'm sure there's other issues I don't agree with them on. Yeah. But to suggest it is sexist or anything racist or
he's gonna
whatever,
apology.
That's absolutely that's nonsensical, Susan. You know that.
If I can wrap this show up, what I am happy about is that we can have a discourse like this. Okay, who's right, who's wrong, who knows? But this is how it was in old school politics. You'd sit down at the bar, you'd sit down and you hash stuff out. You want fact checkers? Okay, go to Jeff Urso. He's your fact checker.
Listen, we should do the next show. We Pete, instead of at 10:30 in the morning, we got to do this at 4:30. I guarantee
or at night. Do live
but let me say, Senator, I want to bring this up because we haven't talked at all about the. Do you agree with me that the LF4T should say who's paying for their stuff?
They're 501c3.
Well, they're not registered on the internet that way. If you go to this website to look up 501c3s, their name does not come up. So I'd like to see the registration. And number two, I don't think a 501c3 can tell people to vote no in a caucus election or vote yes. I don't think I think that's not. I think that violates the federal tax code.
It doesn't, but you need to let stuff like this go. You need to leave me out of your vocabulary, number one.
No, I'm not going to do that. If you're a public figure, you're a public figure.
I tried to wrap up the show,
I'm
Jeff.
A public figure. I've been out of office.
Yes, you are. You're a former state senator. You have been vocal. You come on this podcast. You're vocal and you have every right to be. But then I have every right.
I think my internet's going out. I think Comcast is going out. I think what?
You're not named in the complaint.
Jeff.
The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, JM, and Paul G.